Good day, Yelkr and Geku. By now you should know that you are my nephews and that I'm your Uncle Q. You should also know by now that you live in America and I live in South Africa. Last year I needed to deliver some goods to a town called Clarens. I decided to do some filming on my journey so that I could show you a little bit about the town and what life is like in South Africa. Every day you see something you weren't expecting to see. Take a look at this, for instance. I'm sure you weren't expecting to see a homeless man in a parking lot on an iPad. This is not unusual for South Africa. There are many interesting things to see here. Let me tell you about my journey to Clarens and you will see what I mean.
Before I left for Clarens, I wanted to say goodbye to Stefina. Almost every middle-class home employs a person to do the washing and ironing. South Africans are not sure what this job title is called, because everything you say sounds racist or offensive. You definitely cannot say servant or maid. Some people used to say domestic, but I think most people say helper nowadays. Or if she's raising your kids, they also say nanny. Whatever you say starts sounding offensive after a while, so I'm not sure what to call her, so I just call her Stefina.
Have you ever heard of YouTube?
I don't YouTube.
You don't know YouTube?
Nothing I say bothers Stefina because she doesn't speak English. As long as I don't try talking to her, she's happy to do her work. This is my car. I've blocked out the number plate because I owe a lot of e-tolls. It's not a chick magnet, but it does help loads. Get it? In South Africa, this car is called a bakkie, which means small container. After saying goodbye to Stefina, it was time to hit the road. I live in a complex. This is a cluster of homes surrounded by a wall with 2 electric fences and 24-hour security guards. This is necessary, otherwise people will take your things. And so the journey to Clarens began. As I was driving, I wondered to myself, will I be able to buy a pink flamingo on the side of the road? The answer was yes. Yes, I would. Driving in South Africa is a horrible experience, thanks to these guys. Generally known as taxis, they are vans that fit many people at the same time. The driver of these vehicles are kings of chaos. They follow rules they make up as they go along. For instance, these taxis are all parked in a no parking zone. I'll talk more about them in the future because it's interesting to see what happens when humans don't fear consequences. First, I had to load my bakkie with my cargo. Then I had to fill up with fuel. In South Africa, we have petrol attendants that fill up your car while you wait. I laughed at your dad when I saw him doing it in America. Then it was time to hit the open road. Before going to Clarens, I needed to do a delivery in a small town called Fariesburg. I quickly did my delivery and headed off to Clarens. After 5 hours, I finally arrived. The first thing you notice when driving into Clarens is how many poor people live on the outskirts of the town. This is very normal in South Africa. These people are known as the previously disadvantaged. Judging by their living conditions, I would say they are currently disadvantaged. The one good thing though is most of them seem to have satellite TV. In the town itself is where another group of people live. These people are known as the middle class. The gap in wealth between the middle class and the poor is very big, but they don't live too far apart. This is probably because the poor work for the middle class. Clarens is a kind of holiday town with quaint little restaurants and shops selling trinkets and whatnots. You can ride horses and play golf, perfect for a weekend out of Joburg. On the day I was there, the town was preparing for the annual craft beer festival. No doubt people will drink a lot of beer and get drunk. Many will end up here the next morning, repenting for their sins. But drink too much and you'll end up here. The third big group of South Africans are called the rich. They live like kings, and the middle class and the poor work for them. This group includes business owners, corporate CEOs, corrupt politicians, and their closest friends and family. They live in massive complexes like this. Clarens is a microcosm of South Africa, where the poor, middle class, and rich live side by side under a mild African sky, surrounded by the beauty of nature. Even though I'm the founder and CEO of a company, I stayed in a humble Airbnb for the night. This is typical of the type of accommodation available in a small town. That night, I had chicken cordon bleu for supper at a small restaurant in town. The restaurant wasn't much to look at, but the food was delicious. The next morning, I decided to take a drive to one of our national parks, called the Golden Gate National Park. It has this name because of the sandstone cliffs that look like gates you have to pass through to get to the area. When I saw the kids going to school, I thought I should be at work. And then I decided it would be better for my work-life balance that I should forget about work completely and go for a hike instead. This is the sad thing about South Africa. If you aren't getting stabbed or shot or robbed by criminals, this country is one of the most beautiful in the world. The thing that makes it especially amazing is the weather. I've been to a few countries and no country in the world has weather as mild as South Africa. This place should be crawling with tourists. But I'll get into why it doesn't have as many tourists as it could in future videos. This area is supposed to have a lot of sand cave art. Have you ever wondered why people who have nothing to do all day couldn't improve their painting? I mean, someone in the group could have drawn something a little bit more closer to the real thing. Look at this painting of an elephant. People are so amazed when they see it, but I think it's rubbish. Look, even this elephant can paint a better picture of an elephant. Eventually I made it to the top of one of the golden gates after a 30-minute hike. At the top, I really began to contemplate my life. Felt I was just about to make a breakthrough when my phone received a Skype call. I forgot my phone still has signal up here. Here's me saying something cool and giving good advice. Like, don't be influenced by the crowds. Just before I placed a rock on this pile, I'm not sure why.
This area is really beautiful, and now it's time to get back to Joburg.
Before leaving for home, I thought I'd watch a quick game of soccer. These kids have to play on possibly the worst soccer pitch in history. You wouldn't think that this country has hosted a World Cup. Driving home has to be one of the worst parts of any trip, but it has to be done. And soon I was back at home after a successful business trip.
I hope you found that interesting. I'm now working on my video about food in South Africa. Yelkr and Geku, thank you for watching your Uncle Q.